No, I'm gonna say no.
A little bit.
Wait, how did you guys? Do we have names on our things now?
I think you're automatic. I think you got it. I also think we are.
Is this like updated, like a website update or what?
Yeah, it looks like they made some changes. We are live though, guys. Welcome to episode 30 of the VT Roundtable. We're going to be talking the Vikings' most recent win over the Baltimore Ravens, 24-16, in this defensive slugfest, or kicker slugfest, rather, I guess you could say. I am Brett Anderson. I host these guys. I'm joined by Austin Bilal down in the bottom left-hand corner, Drew Mahold in the bottom right-hand corner, and Robert Rydell in the upper right-hand corner. We all have they have their Twitter handles in there now, so those are some great follows if you add those guys on Twitter. But anyway, we're going to be talking about the win, like I said, over the Baltimore Ravens at home. This is a live show, so we're hoping to get you guys in here. We'll be putting that link in the YouTube chat. We'll also be tweeting that link out. But all we ask is you have your cam turned on and a mic that's somewhat decent. And once you join the show, kind of close out the YouTube stream. That way you're not getting a bunch of feedback from that. But we're going to be talking about the game, taking your questions in the chat, as well as bringing some of you guys on the show. So let's start off the game with the game. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on this really exciting Ravens-Vikings game today? BJ, Drew?
I have thoughts on the game, but like,
well, I mean, just general. I mean, you know, kicking us off. I'm just looking for, I don't know, just got done watching the game. What are your?
I think Latavius Murray showed up today in a big way. I think that he proved that he is a serviceable back at the very least. That was probably the biggest takeaway, other than the fact that the Vikings defense is absolutely lights out. Anthony Barr was everywhere today. He recorded a sack for the first time in God knows when. He was all over the place in coverage. I mean, this is just vintage Anthony Barr, the guy that we expected. He's back. That's for real. Trae Waynes was very good today, I thought, with the exception of that garbage time touchdown. He was playing JV receiver, so there is that. But overall,
NFL receivers.
Yeah, they're NFL receivers, exactly. Everyone's. Regardless, great defensive effort. Latavius Murray came to play today, and Case Keenum did just enough once again.
I want to say really quick. Someone just said in the chat, we have 499 subscribers right now. Usually I don't say anything till the end of the show.
Yeah. I'm gonna get somebody to subscribe.
But we need
right
one of
now.
you to just go ahead and hit subscribe, make this thing a done deal, and put us at 500. I mean, come on. I told BJ a few days ago I was going to have it done in a single night, and I completely failed at that. So someone help me out and put us at 500 right now. Drew, what are your thoughts on the game, man, while you're trying to get us that 500 subscriber?
Yeah, I think the offensive line injuries we had with Riley Reef left the game and Jeremiah Searles left the game. In the past, that would be a tragic situation for this offense, and last year we saw what happened. When guys go down, things turn into a dumpster fire real quick. But that did not happen today. I thought Rashad Hill held his own. I thought Danny Zador made a couple of really nice blocks on some longer Murray runs. So it was good to see them step in. I'm still slightly concerned about the health, especially of Reef moving forward. But you have a backup that can go in and play at a serviceable level, and that's not something the Vikings have had as far as I can remember. A guy you can have as a backup that steps in like that.
Do we know yeah, my bad. Do we know the extent of Reef's injury at this point?
Just a knee injury, but we don't know anything besides that. That's I think all has been released. So
we're expecting Easton back pretty soon, right? Though I would guess. I mean, I thought
I don't really care if he comes back now.
Really?
I've never thought he was very good. I said this during the whole Alex Boone debate, however long ago that was. But I mean, Isadora came in there and he blew a couple blocks for sure, but he also made a couple of really nice seals on longer runs. So you can see the difference that he makes. I just don't think that Easton's making much of a difference. So for a guy like Isadora, who's younger, probably hungrier at this point, being that he started the year as the number 3 on the depth chart, I really like him moving forward, and I don't really have a problem with him starting at this point. I don't think he's that much worse, and than Easton at this point right now, and I think he has the potential to be a whole lot better.
I think when I saw Searles go down, at first, they showed that there was an injured offensive lineman, and I immediately got panicked because we've said, the offensive line has performed well so far this season. I think by anyone's standards and our expectations headed into the season, I think they've performed better than we expected. But it hasn't been a unit that has a lot of depth. So I think as soon as I saw that body was a bigger body on the ground, I kind of got a little panicked because I was really worried it was going to be to one of the tackles, which we ended up losing a tackle later in the game. But I think that's the one position when I saw that it was Searles that I think we could afford to maybe lose a little. We have a little bit more depth than other positions. And I agree with you, BJ, that I think Isadora came in and performed pretty well. What do you think about Riley Reef, though? I mean, did you see enough from Rashad Hill that if Reef is gone a couple weeks, you're going to feel comfortable with that situation?
Not today.
No?
Definitely not today. Hill was not good today. I mean, obviously, anytime you get thrown into the fire, it's a tough situation for anyone. And Hill being a guy that has basically played, preseason plus 3 games in his career to date, something like that. I thought he looked like he was rusty. I thought he looked like he was thrown into the fire. I do think that he's a very good player, though, and we've seen that in the past, that he deserves a chance to be, to get his encore performance. It just didn't show up today. So I'm not nervous, about – I'm not like losing Reef is a huge loss, especially with Myles Garrett on tap. And, there's no way to really neutralize that with just a player switch. And, Hill's a good player. I trust him. But anytime you lose a guy that I think he's one of 3 players in the NFL right now, Trent Williams and Joe Thomas being the other 2 that haven't allowed a sack this year. It's a huge loss if you miss it.
Some great golf here at the Carolina.
How many sacks? Did we allow any sacks today?
I'll check. I don't remember any off the top of my head right now.
If we did, it wasn't Reef, right? So Reef's kind of streak continues.
Case is pretty good at moving around in the pocket.
He did move around in the pocket, and we'll talk about Case a little bit more in a bit here. I think one of the announcers mentioned, and something I hadn't really thought about, but it kind of points to the lack of depth in general across the O-line, is that when Rashad Hill came in, we had no other O-line.
Yeah,
today.
No sacks for the Ravens today.
Okay, so Reef continues. So I guess my question is what do the Vikings do moving forward? Let's say Reef is out, Easton's out, Searles is out. Are you bringing other people up now? I mean, you're going to have to, right? Because if there's more injuries next week, you're going to need some additional backups. I guess I'm starting to get more concerned about the O-line. Even though they've looked good, it's always been an issue of depth across the offensive line. And if Hill is in, if Isadora is in, what are you doing at the other positions across the O-line if you suffer injuries there? I mean, I think things start to look pretty bleak pretty quickly. Would you guys agree? Or
I mean, if it turns into a slippery slope type thing, then yeah, it can get bad really quick. But
it's not even that steep of a slope, right? To suggest we suffer one more injury across the O-line.
No, but that's kind of how it is, though, just in general. I mean, for example, Cleveland lost Joe Thomas today.
That sucks.
They're screwed now. There's no replacement for Joe Thomas. And to be quite honest with you, I think that Riley Reef has performed at such a high level this year that he's not like Joe Thomas-esque, but I'm saying losing him to the Vikings offensive line is a similar, it's a similar type of situation in that you're losing a guy that's playing at the peak of his career right now, if he is out moving forward. Remember, he was questionable to return during the game. I kind of imagine that the Vikings put Hill in as a precautionary reason since they were up by 2 touchdowns.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, if he was going to be out my guess would be if he's going to be out for any kind of length of time, you would have seen him go onto the injury tent, back into the locker room. He was up on the sideline without a helmet, but engaged in the talks, engaged in the conversations. Knowing that you have to travel and play Cleveland, who is 0-7 now. I think a lot of it is precaution. Truth be told, I missed most of the game. But why was Searles in? Where was Berger? Was he not in the game?
Berger was in at right guard. Searles was filling in for Easton at left guard.
So then Isadora went in at left guard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I missed that. Thank you. Anyway,
No worries. So let's
I
talk
was
about
trying to figure it out. I'm like, wait a second. I thought Isidore was a right guard.
let's talk about Keenum's performance. Last week we didn't have a post game show, so we didn't really get a chance to talk about the whole Teddy Bridgewater, clearing his test and basically starting to practice again with the team, being taken off the PUP. So Keenum, kind of is playing for his job, I think, at this point. And I guess an argument could be made that he never really has a chance to be playing for his job, that this is Teddy's team regardless. But knowing that kind of, I don't want to say Keenum's on the block a little bit with Teddy waiting in the shadows, but knowing that he needed to perform well in order to keep that spot locked down. How do you guys feel about his performance today, and maybe just broaden that to the past 2 weeks? Do you feel like he's done enough to kind of lock himself into that spot?
No, I kind of get the impression that I think Andrew Kramer at Star Tribune said this last week when asked that the Vikings are planning as if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be active, he'll be starting. That's kind of what he said. I think somebody asked him a question about it this week, and he's responded with that. So I get the idea that this isn't really a QB competition right now, and Keenum's not playing for his job. I don't think he ever really had it, and once these guys get back. So that's kind of how I am interpreting this. But I think Keenum's been very off and on all year. His accuracy's been erratic. He's just had a couple of dimes here and there that have kind of evened it out and given him a better perception, I guess, in the eyes of most fans. But he's been pretty erratic. Today he wasn't that great, and I mean the Vikings defense was good enough to win. Latavius Murray was good enough on the ground to win. So I think the Vikings pretty soon they're going to need either Bradford or Bridgewater back in the game so that some of these throws that should be relatively easy aren't so difficult.
So something I had that I wanted to talk about last week that we can talk about now. There was a tweet that our boy, what is his name? How do you pronounce his name? Chian? Fahi?
No.
Cayenne, because it's hot as hell.
All right. Well, anyway, he basically had a tweet out there that kind of inspired this question. I don't remember the exact tweet, but he was basically like, with any sort of competent QB play, the Vikings are the best team in the league right now. Do you agree that if we can get Bridgewater or Bradford back in this lineup, that there's not another teams that can a lot of other teams right now that can compete with us, or do you think that take is a little too hot and don't really
see the NFC North or the NFC in general is so watered down? It feels like that the Vikings are definitely in the conversation for best team in the NFC right now, especially if
it sounds so weird.
It does, because the Vikings. I mean, here's the thing: if either Bradford or Bridgewater starts that Detroit game, I'm thinking the Vikings win. Steelers game probably is a loss regardless, given all the penalties and stuff. But Vikings are definitely better than I think their record says at this point. But I don't know. I feel like they should be a 6-1 team.
I was going to ask you guys if you think the Vikings are worse than their record suggests at this point. Because this week,
true too.
This week
I see the argument there too, because the quarterbacks they've played since the first 3 weeks. I mean, you've got, I guess, last couple weeks you had Trubisky, you have Brett Hundley, and you have Joe Flacco, who are all
Flacco with no wide receivers,
Right.
I mean, right. And so I was kind of thinking that during the game. I was like, okay, we're 5-2 now, but are we as good as our record suggests at this point? And I think maybe it's somewhere in the middle, Drew, between what your point.
So they are exactly what their record says.
I think maybe they are what their record says, because I think you have to take into consideration the losses that we've had and the fact that we're still using our third string QB right now. So I don't know. I think maybe it's somewhere in the middle. Do you agree, BJ? Do you feel like the 5-2 record is reflective of how good this team is? Maybe more so, maybe less so.
Well, Drew brought up the point last week on our podcast that the Vikings didn't really prove anything last week against Brett Hundley. You didn't learn anything new. They just beat a guy that they were supposed to beat. I kind of feel the same way about this game, to be honest with you, at least defensively. Coming into this game, I think Drew hit the nail on the head on the score. It was very, very close. We both predicted that
touchdown, that freaking garbage time touchdown ruined it for me. I had 24-9.
Yeah, my point being here is I expected all of this. So I don't think the Vikings proved anything new. They just came out and executed, which is what you're supposed to do against bad football teams. So credit where credit is due in that regard. But, this defense is playing at an elite level. I've been saying for probably 2 years now that this is a Super Bowl caliber defense. I don't think that's changed in the last couple I guess, year and a half or so. Quarterback play, until we have stable quarterback play where, like, I know who the quarterback is going to be moving forward, and I can kind of project based off of, what we have seen in terms of a larger sample size, then that's when I'll be more comfortable saying that the Vikings are a power in the NFC. Right now, they're only a defensive power as far as I'm concerned because the offense is just too inconsistent.
I just want to point out I'm being called like a Debbie Downer in the chat here. I'm not trying to I guess, I don't know, get everyone's spirits down. I'm just like asking the questions because it was something I thought of. I mean, and I even said myself, I think the Vikings are as good as their record suggests right now. I'm just kind of asking the question because we have been fortunate the past few weeks,
absolutely, yeah. You can look at it two ways. You can say, well, the Vikings should be 6-1 because of that Detroit game, which I think they easily should have won that game. But then you can also say, okay, Mitch Trubisky, Brett Hundley, and Joe Flacco. That's a 3-game stretch there of not a very tough test at quarterback. So, and they're gonna get the Browns this week. So I don't know, but I'm not buying in completely yet to this team being like an NFC powerhouse this year. But we'll see how they fare. That 3-game stretch on the road after the bye, when you go at Detroit, at Atlanta, and at Carolina, I believe that 3-game stretch will basically will tell us how good this team actually is.
We have a person waiting to get in. It's a returning guest. However, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Victor. He did say in the chat that Zimmer said the Reef injury isn't expected to be serious. I don't think any of us have seen that come across Twitter.
Great news.
So, shout out to Victor, even though he thinks I'm a Debbie Downer and he says I'm always a Debbie Downer. Whatever, that's fine. All right, let's bring in our guest, Austin. Don from Ohio, the one and only. The returning, right now the one and only guest. We're hoping to get some more people in here. What's up, Don from Ohio?
He's on mute right now.
You're on mute.
Why are you muted?
Do we
I didn't
have
mute him.
That control?
He muted us.
I can mute over his mute.
Yeah,
this is going very well.
All right, leave and come back, Don from Ohio. I also don't have... Man, they changed the whole setup here. I also don't have the option to, like, kick people anymore, it looks like.
You hit the little ellipsis in the top right corner.
Oh, gosh. Why'd that... Okay. All right. Whatever. Some changes here. All right, so let's talk about the rushing game today. Jerick McKinnon had kind of taken a hold of that role up till today. I think Murray did a little bit today to kind of snatch it back from him. The Vikings on the ground... had 169 yards on the ground. I think Murray had quite a bit more than McKinnon today. So what do you guys think about this group moving forward? Do you think it's just going to kind of be whoever has the hot hand and play them, or do you kind of see one showing themselves as the clear starter over the other?
Hot hand. That's the best way to go about this. Yeah, I mean, today Latavius Murray got hot. He got more carries than Jet. That's the best way to roll moving forward. I mean, that's kind of how the whole running back by committee thing started. There's games when your bell cow or your starting guy won't have a groove. He won't find a rhythm. And it's nice to have a guy like Jet or Murray, whichever one you feel is the two, I guess. But a guy that can step in there competently and be a change of pace guy and, build a rhythm for himself when the other guy's not doing so well.
Do you think there's any reason they pulled McKinnon from kick returns?
Yeah, because he's getting more snaps on offense.
See, but he was getting more snaps, I think, a week or two ago, and they still had him returning kicks. And then he had that fumble, and I noticed as soon as he fumbled, he hadn't returned a kick since that point, and he still hasn't returned a kick. They had, Cheryl's back there today. So I was wondering if it was, I don't know, some reason other than the fact that he's just getting more touches on offense. But
I think a combination between not returning kicks at a very high level and knowing that you've got another guy in Marcus Sherrills that is proven, at least as a punt returner, and then, in addition to the fact that he's, seen an increased role on offense, I think the Vikings probably even expected him to get more touches and more snaps today than he did. Drew's point about going to the hot hand is, I think that's right on the money moving forward here. And I think that you'll see a lot of situational things where the Vikings will use Murray, obviously situationally in like third and short yard situations, goal line situations, but then also against opponents that, a big bruising back can wear down. You saw the Ravens today came into this game as the 30th team in the NFL in rush defense or something like that. Brandon Williams comes back, the big nose tackle. You want to have a big running back in there to answer that and can fall forward against the kind of the tone setter on their run defense. So I think that you're going to see a combination of the two regardless. And there's, fantasy football purposes, there's no right answer right now. It's two guys that are basically haven't established themselves into any specific role to date in their Vikings careers. And, whoever plays better is going to get more touches. That's just how it's going to be moving forward as far as I see it.
Yeah. All right, let's try Don again, Austin. Welcome back to the show, Don from Ohio.
Hey guys, can you hear me this time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Yes,
How are you?
Good. So can we put to rest Case Keenum is our starting quarterback the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Is that ever anyone's
I don't
real
know where
take?
this whole crap came from of a certain section of Viking fans who thought this would be a fantastic idea that Case Keenum should be our starting quarterback the rest of the way, because that just ain't happening. There should be only one time Case Keenum should start after the Browns game, and that's if we play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs. That's the only time we need to start playing them. Hey, Austin, pay attention. Thank you. So at this point, my thing is, at this point, do we go with a 90% Teddy Bridgewater or a 90%, if he's around 85, 90% Bradford after week 11?
I don't think that question matters because I don't think Bradford's going to be 90% the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I saw the reports. Someone reported that he should be back by the time after the
London game.
Yeah. They said that whatever he's been doing has been working.
Well, okay, he got a bunch of injections this week
Right.
to something about like removing blood, and then eventually he's going to get the blood back in, put back in or something. I don't know what it's some weird treatment that.
Guess it works.
Well, we don't know if it works yet, but.
Well, no, it has worked in the past for other athletes, I should say.
It's like alternative treatment. It
Right.
thins the blood, and then you put it back in. And so
He's trying everything to keep his job. That's
Right,
what he's doing.
Well, or his NFL career.
Career.
I mean, let's be
That-
honest.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
he most likely is not going to re-sign with the Vikings. I mean, Teddy's most likely going to be our guy. I wouldn't even have an issue with Teddy if the game is a blowout one way or the other, to have Teddy do one or two series next week in London. I really wouldn't, just to get him going before Washington, because it almost feels like it's a lock at this point that he's going to be playing right after the bye. It really does.
The only reason I don't want Teddy starting as soon as possible is because I'm not sure I can handle him dropping back to make a pass like all game. Like I'm not sure emotionally I'm prepared for that. So it's more I'm scared about the situation. But I think
But
without
you know
a question
what?
he looks better than Bradford does right now, easily.
But you know what? We're always going to be that way for the rest of his career, so it's not going to matter. It's just I think for the rest of his career, it doesn't matter if 5 years from now when we see him get hit or go down. If we see him go down, first thing we're going to say, "Oh my God, it's his knee." I mean, it's going to happen that way.
Yeah, we're gonna be worried about him the rest of his career, but those first few games, it's gonna be escalated substantially.
Yeah, but you know what? I know, but this is the year we had the Super Bowl in our house. The NFC is up for the taking. Outside of the Eagles, there's not another consistent team. We won again today without our QB1, RB1, and wide receiver 1. I mean, everybody's got injuries. I mean, Roberts has said that also. I mean, everybody's dealing with injuries. Hell, we dealt with injuries all last year. No one gave us excuses. Everybody said you guys had a crappy offense, even though, hell, we had no offensive line, not a starting quarterback. So I don't want to hear about that. I just, I mean, we won. We played a really crappy team. We're supposed to beat crappy teams. We should beat another crappy team next week. We'll probably win in another crappy way, but it's still a win. It gets us to where we need to be, win the division, and hopefully a first-round bye. That's what we need to do. That should be our goal right now.
So
who starts at quarterback week 10?
Week 10 is
Teddy.
what? The Redskins?
At Washington.
Teddy.
And then who starts week 11 at home against
Teddy.
the Rams?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah,
It
Teddy
should
for
just be
both of
Teddy
those?
at this point.
It's
Why
so,
would it be
I mean,
possible?
unless Sam's knee makes a miraculous comeback, it's Teddy's team now.
even if his
I mean,
knee
but
makes a miraculous comeback, I think it's past that.
I don't think so. No,
No.
not after we saw week 1. Not after
Week
we saw week
one.
1.
What we saw
Week-
week 5?
And when his knee was,
Yeah,
he couldn't even walk.
Dude, it's Teddy's team. If you've ever had any doubt about that, I mean, just listen to anything Mike Zimmer says ever. He's just itching to put him back on the field.
Not the debate.
But I'll say this: isn't it nice to know that by week 11 we should have Bradford, Bridgewater, and then in an emergency situation we have Case Keenum. So I gotta say, I'm thrilled about our quarterback situation compared to about 90% of the NFL right now. So I'm okay if both Bradford and Teddy, it is Teddy's, but I'm saying is, if this is a discussion that we're having, is that who should we start? I could guarantee you, look at Green Bay right now. Look at Chicago. Look at I don't care how Chicago won today with the ridiculous stuff, but
they shouldn't have won that game.
Well, but they did, and they deserved to because Cam was awful. But I mean, look at Arizona now. Palmer, they're has-beens. Who knows what's going on with the land? Look, I'm thrilled about our defense is phenomenal. Our special teams was consistent today, and as long as we don't turn the ball over, and we can still run the ball halfway decent, and we get as long as we get Diggs back too, we'll be fine. You know what? We should secure a first-round bye. If we can keep our offensive line healthy, keep our wide receiving core healthy, and either Bridgewater or Bradford can come back and quarterback for us.
It's so funny because everyone in the chat also shares my I don't know, fear about Teddy coming back, because all I hear is Greg Williams is the defensive coordinator for the Browns, which is a very valid point. So maybe
no one is going to play against the Browns.
Well, we were just saying like maybe we were just saying like maybe if Keenum, if we're up ahead, up on the Browns a few.
He won't even dress. He won't dress for the Cleveland game.
Okay,
I disagree. I think he'll dress.
He won't dress.
And then after the bye, everyone's talking about Washington's turf and Teddy's knee. So I mean, like,
this is thank you,
RG3 disagrees.
That too.
Yeah, well, what about the practice field turf where we play, where Teddy blew out his knee?
The field in West is going to be bad too. So I mean, it happens. Some teams, Soldier Field's not a good field.
No, it's not.
No, exactly.
So
or it's like
just because Robert Griffin RG3 hurt his knee. What was that? 5 years ago while dealing with a knee injury. Like, the thing we forget is Teddy's been cleared and he's apparently healthy. So
are we not playing Carolina because Dante blew out his knee there? I mean, it's it
happens everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Does that mean that Aaron Rodgers shouldn't play in US Bank Stadium from this point forward? I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, it sucks. It was the most Viking thing ever that happened with Teddy Bridgewater. It really was. And now, he's back. Look, if he's okay to play, that's all that counts. And if the coaches thinks he's okay to play, that's all that counts. And again, it was just a really crappy game today. I'm just glad we won. And finally, before I go, Drew, I want to say I'm sorry that you gave up on the Little Caesar promotion and decided to go with Chia Pet because of your chin. But I mean, share your dreams, my fan. Live them. Live your dreams, buddy. All right, guys, have a great one. As always, fantastic video cast. I'll always promote it.
All right, thanks, Don from Ohio. I was gonna. He kind of, I guess, volunteered to leave. I wanted to get his opinion on Treadwell because one of the things that I had to talk about today.
He escaped before he could let that happen.
And
why ask someone like him about Treadwell?
Well, because I'm interested to get opinions on Treadwell now, because this was kind of, in my opinion, this was Treadwell's best opportunity to date to kind of come forward and take that wide receiver 3 spot, because Diggs was out, Floyd was out, and I feel like he didn't do much with as a Treadwell supporter and somebody that's been behind him this whole time in the face of guys like Don from Ohio. I feel like he didn't do enough, and instead you had Jarius Wright kind of come forward and shine in that role a little bit more than even Treadwell did. So I just wanted to get your opinion now. I mean, I guess, what do you expect from Treadwell moving forward the rest of this season? Like, what? I guess I was just kind of disappointed with what he showed today and wanted to see if you guys shared that opinion. BJ
what?
Or Austin?
No, BJ can go. It's fine.
He didn't do anything. I mean, case closed, right? He mistimed his jump once again on the 50-50 ball that, in fairness, probably should have been a pass interference call.
I didn't think it was interference for what it's worth. I thought it looked like the Ravens guy had his hand held down, but I
was
didn't.
an armbar.
It was definitely interference. But I mean,
Yeah,
I guess the point I was trying to make is like, that's what you brought Treadwell in for, right? That's supposed to be his strength. He's never been a wide receiver that could get separation. He's supposed to be a wide receiver that can go up and get the ball and make contested catches. And I think, you know, although it was a penalty, he could have done a little bit more to secure that ball. But, you know.
He didn't do anything well today, in my opinion. I mean, he caught one catch that set up a field goal on 3rd down on a good route. He wasn't creating separation virtually at all against two cornerbacks that have actually, or Brandon Carr has actually been playing pretty well for what it's worth. You know, after fizzling out in Dallas, he's been pretty solid this year. So, I don't know. Treadwell's Treadwell. I'm over him, man. I thought his time to shine was against Tampa Bay, and when he failed in that regard, I kind of fell off the train. I'm cool with Michael Floyd moving forward. He's the guy that we need. He's already doing more damage, you know, when he's on the field per snap than Treadwell is, in my opinion. So that's my take on Treadwell. I don't care anymore. Sorry.
All right, Austin. Do you have anything to add to that? I know you've been Team Treadwell quite a bit.
I don't know. I mean, again, I didn't see most of the game, so I couldn't tell you if he didn't he didn't produce because he didn't have the opportunity to. If, you know, most of the opportunities went to Jarius Wright. Like, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for the guy, but I'm also not going to look at the stat line and say he didn't shine, he missed, he left things on the field. I just don't know. Part of me is at this point where, you know, he's not doing enough to warrant being a first-round pick, and we kind of got to get past the whole thing with he's a first-round pick, why is he not performing? The Vikings are going to get their best players on the field. If that's Jarius Wright, that's Jarius Wright. Like, I'm kind of with BJ where if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out because the Vikings got quote-unquote lucky enough with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, and some of the other weapons on the team that aren't necessarily high-profile picks. So, you know, maybe it is Michael Floyd, but again, he's not healthy. So what do? You get guys touches that need the touches. It's not like the offense as a whole did anything. So
you give Stacy Coley a shot.
Yeah,
right?
You start to figure out that Stacy Coley deserves a shot. But I also think, and I was telling you this before, Brett, that, you know, are we kind of as a fan base, and I'm not trying to pose the question, it's more rhetorical, are we as a fan base kind of waiting to see, like, what this team looks like with a Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback when, you know, you can unleash the full scope of the playbook with a quarterback like that? Or are we making excuses for guys because, you know, Case Keenum leaves a lot of yards on the field?
We're making excuses for guys because we have injuries. That's what we do as Vikings fans. I'm from an objective standpoint, the Vikings didn't play well today, guys. I'm sorry. Case Keenum didn't play well today. Offensively, the Vikings did not play well today. Case Keenum has not played well. QB wins is not a stat. I mean,
no,
it's like for me, it's like this is bridging the gap. That's what Case Keenum's job is. His job description when he signed his contract was to be a backup quarterback, and that's what he's done. And he's played at an elite backup quarterback level. But he's a backup.
In his role, he's done a good job. Now, he hasn't been a great quarterback, but he's doing enough. And if the Vikings can win, you know, this is kind of a dig to all Packers fans. You know, Aaron Rodgers is the only Aaron Rodgers out there. So you knew that the team was going to start losing games without him. But you can't also sit here and say it's all because of Aaron Rodgers, because that front office did a terrible job building that roster. That roster is depleted by injury, just like the Vikings. And if the Vikings can win games with their third-string quarterback, really, Case Keenum, that says a lot about the defense, about special teams, and about the pieces elsewhere. So, you know, I don't.
That says more about coaching, to be honest with you.
And I think, Mike McCarthy's
just preparation.
Yeah, I
if you're a one-man team, if you're a one-man team like the Packers, don't let your one man get hurt. That's your one job. Yeah. You know, but the Vikings, as you know, as you're alluding to, Austin, the Vikings have composed a much deeper roster. We argued earlier this year that it may not be the best team in the NFC North, but it's definitely the deepest roster in the NFC North. And that's came to play this year. We've seen so many injuries. I pointed this out earlier today. I swear there's more injuries in the league this year than there ever has been. I rarely get through an entire game without seeing someone leave the field. That's just how the NFL works nowadays. Case Keenum is doing his job. He's earning his paycheck for sure, but This is not the final product. We're only in week 7 now, through 7 weeks of play. That's not even at the midpoint in the season. And Case Keenum has done an honorable job. He has done so much better than I personally expected, than all of us could have expected. But he's still a backup quarterback, and the Vikings are better when their starting quarterback is on the field. There's no debate here, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Case Keenum. This is what you bring in Case Keenum for. This is my take, almost verbatim, when the Vikings signed him. He's a quarterback that can get it done for a few games if you have an injury to Bradford and or Bridgewater, I guess now. But at the time it was Bradford. He has to miss a month or 2 to 3 games or something like that. And given what the schedules look like the last few weeks, Keenum has been good enough to win those games, and that's not saying a whole lot. So, I'm like the conductor of the train of like anti QB wins because I just hate that stat. So
it's abused. It's so abused. It's the automatic.
It's the reason Joe Flacco is tagged elite when he's actually really bad.
And Eli Manning too.
Popped up by a Super Bowl. That's why he won a Super Bowl. He won
the Super Bowl.
He made plays against Peyton Manning, so now his career is boosted by his Super Bowl win.
A complete coverage breakdown against Denver for that long touchdown. That's the only reason he's.
Let me pose this question to you guys: if Case Keenum had the stat lines that he has had over the past 4 games, if he's had those stat lines next to losses, do you think people say a word about Case Keenum potentially even jockeying for a starting position?
Absolutely
no.
Not.
You're gauging wins, and this is a defensive football team that's winning by running the football very effectively. Very effectively. So many efficient runs today. It was outstanding. But Case Keenum is doing enough. You saw the accuracy issues on display today, and how much the interception with Treadwell, that probably was thrown a little bit behind him as well. That's a poor play. We saw a first down marker that got thrown, basically a duck into the ground that Kyle Rudolph generally would have caught if it was thrown remotely accurate.
Remember there was like a play action kind of bootleg where Thielen came across the formation into the flat, and Keenum threw it so far behind him where Thielen had to reach out with this one hand back behind him like this. He made the catch and made it the first down. That's the kind of thing that's been happening since Keenum took over. Thielen and Diggs and these players are making catches. Treadwell against the Packers last week, making insane plays to inflate stats. Yeah, Floyd too against is that the Bears and that Monday night game, a long one on the sideline.
Yeah.
All right, so we all agree Keenum isn't the guy moving forward, right? I think
Vikings fans like to make excuses. Honestly, it's part of our nature. Honestly,
it's woe is me. It's woe is me. There's
yes. Thank you.
We're 5-2. No, I don't want to say we. The Vikings are 5-2. Let's
say
all just
we.
be happy.
Say
happy,
we.
Happy, joy. No, I'm not going to say we.
I think Vikings fans have gotten to the point with the national media where they're just so annoyed with the national media's takes because they're almost always either overlooking the Vikings.
Andy Benoit.
Benoit's good. I'll hate him.
They're either inaccurate or they're not covering the Vikings when they're good. So I think Vikings fans have just gotten to the point where they're just they're pissed off and they're just well, we're missing our QB too. Where's our article? You know what I'm saying? I know that Dalvin's out. I know that Sam and Teddy are out. I know that Diggs is out. But that's not an excuse. Everyone has to play through injuries.
It is. I think there is some truth to the national media doesn't give them a lot of attention. I saw a tweet today. The Lions have a bye, and apparently someone from Yahoo tweeted out that Stafford has the best odds for the MVP, and the Lions are the favorite to win the division. And I that makes no sense to. I was like, what are you talking about? They're not playing. They're down a game now. Stafford's hurt, so I don't know. I mean, I can see some of it, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it.
Hey, I get the frustration. I'm not saying don't be frustrated with this kind of thing. I'm just saying there's a lot of woe is me that goes into some pretty subjective inflation for the Vikings' performance.
This is why I hate when every single week, the refs are biased against the Vikings, according to my Twitter feed.
Exactly.
Every week.
You can't blame injuries and you can't blame the refs.
They're also biased for the Packers every single week. Every week.
That is true.
Clearly.
In fairness, the refs have been pretty rough the past couple weeks.
But they were rough on both sides today.
Sure, yeah.
They were awful across the board. Just
yeah, I don't like ever claiming the ref excuse, but the officiating has been a little subpar lately. All right, so look, let's move on from the QB thing. I want to ask one more question though before we wrap this up. We've all kind of said we think Keenum is just a backup. He's nothing more. He's performed well as a backup, but his time is going to end here shortly. So kind of like what Don was saying, just assume both guys are 100%. Let's say after the bye, so at the Redskins. Both guys are 100% ready to go. Who are you starting, Teddy or Sam? And we'll just go around the table, and you can pick one, and you can say your reason, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Austin, team sleeves, go ahead. Or have you seen the light?
Just if both are 100%, and we're talking in this iteration of the Vikings, so this team, they're both 100%, correct? We're not talking beginning of the season, next year, like right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I won't even say, both are 100%. I guess they're both been deemed ready to play and ready to go. And Sam wants to play, and Teddy wants to play, and the team says both can play. Who are you starting at Washington?
Scared money don't make no money.
I think, you know what? I'm thinking long term here. This isn't me saying I'm not on team sleeves or I am team
just take
gloves or whatever. It's got to be Teddy. You have to put Teddy in there because even if the Vikings said Sam Bradford's healthy, there's still more concern, I think, with his knee moving forward than there is with Teddy's. I think Teddy's got age. I think with what the Vikings are trying to do offensively, Teddy's your guy. I think you have a lot more option for bootlegs, for play action. You can see someone like Keenum who moves the pocket well, not as well as Teddy did, but someone who moves the pocket well creates opportunities for the offense. So Teddy is basically a one-to-one upgrade over Case Keenum, better arm strength, more of a gamer, moves well in the pocket, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if Sam gives you that anymore. I think, like I wrote about and talked about earlier, I think Sam's done. But back to your question, it's got to be Teddy.
Drew?
Depends on, okay, so you said if both are 100% healthy.
That's an impossibility, right?
So, I'm asking.
So let's just say both are active. Both say they're ready to go. The team says both are ready to go. Both guys want to get in there. Who are you picking?
Okay, so I'm picking Teddy basically because of the results of the Soldier Field game when Bradford was deemed healthy and was active and started. I'm not going to be able to trust that knee at all. So I'm going with Teddy there, and I mean I think if they're both 100% healthy, I think they're almost overall about as even as it gets as far as like straight up QB play to me. So, and if I have more trust in Teddy's health than Sam's health, then I'm going to go with Teddy.
And BJ, I think you kind of already said yours, but do you want to finalize it?
Scared money doesn't make any money. You can't start Case Keenum if Teddy's ready to roll, period.
Yep.
Sometimes I get scared at the blackjack table after I've doubled my money and I walk away. So I make money. And technically I was scared. But sometimes it's just smart.
I actually learned that phrase from trying to remember who the football player was. It was the guy who was on the Atlanta Falcons team that beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship in 1998. And he literally leaned over to me, and I was playing doubles, and I didn't want to split my eights because I had $50 on the field on there. And he was like, "Scared money don't make no money," and I was like, "Let's go, baby!"
And
that's
what happened?
Honestly, and I won.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I split the eights, and I doubled one of them, and I think I won 2 out of the 3, so I won the overall hand. And that's what that's how you're supposed to play. You can't. That's how you should approach every situation. Like if the Vikings are trying to win the Super Bowl this year, you got to shake the rust off Teddy as soon as possible.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
That's when he's ready to roll. So if he's ready to roll next week, if he's ready to go 100%, checked out by every trainer across the board. Zimmer says it's cool. Teddy says he's ready to go. Shermer checks off. I mean, put him in. It's time. It's time. If you're trying, you now have a 5-2 record, sitting in the same place as you were last year, by the way, and you have an opportunity to win this division and possibly even get a bye at this point if you keep winning games. Put your damn starter in the game. That's Teddy Bridgewater.
This game today has like transformed my opinion. I was always of the opinion that I think you keep Keenum in there and find a convenient time to get Teddy the rust off. But Keenum today was just so erratic, and this is a game the Vikings should have realistically won by like 25 to 30 points. The Ravens were just not good at all. And the Vikings offense, especially in the red zone, was so limited that I think you get Teddy in there. He can't really actually be worse, super rusty or not, than the way Keenan played today.
So let's move on and talk about this elite Vikings defense. They allowed 64 yards on the ground. They allowed 144 yards in the air. A lot of that came on the final drive from the Ravens, where the Vikings did their typical drop into prevent before the end of the game, try and keep them in bounds. And actually, I thought it was a cool little note that the only time they got in the red zone, the Ravens got in the red zone all game, was when there was less than a minute left in the game. And ultimately, they ended up scoring on that route on Trae Waynes. But anyway, so just thoughts on the defense. Let's start off with Anthony Barr, right? Because I feel like this is the Anthony Barr we grew to love in his rookie season, and then some. Like, he has just been playing like a monster the past few weeks. What are your guys' thoughts on Barr? Is this the Barr we were expecting to see this season? How happy are you with what Barr's shown? Take it away. Let's go, Drew.
Anthony Barr was a monster today. He looks like probably better than 2015 Barr, I would say. I mean, is that not? Is he better than 2015 Barr? Yeah.
Yes.
Today was phenomenal. And he's like, in the past, he maybe would be there in coverage in the right spot, maybe miss a tackle or get too aggressive or whatever. But he's making the tackle this year too, and it's all season. He'll maybe allow that short 3 to 4 yard catch, but then he'll make the tackle on the spot. He's been ultra reliable in coverage, and then we saw his pass rushing today too. When he gets a free shot, it's over. It's ball game. So Anthony Barr, he made the Pro Bowl last year inexplicably, but he's arguably in the All-Pro consideration at this point, based on how he's played. And today was kind of that like coming out party for his candidacy, I think, as an All-Pro linebacker.
Anyone else have anything else to say on Barr, or did Drew handle it?
He's been damn good.
I don't know.
He's been so good. Just
My
across
fault.
the.
So go ahead.
You go. We interrupted each other 3 times. You go.
That worked. I was just going to say, my sister texted me during the thing and said, tell the round table that I say Anthony Barr for president. So she kind of shares my thoughts. She watched the whole game, so
she's more of an expert on this than you are, technically.
She'll be on the round table today, yeah.
There we go. So what do you guys? I wanted to ask, what do you think about Ben Gideon at this point? Because we don't hear his name very much.
He did not have a good game today.
Yeah.
He got washed out. He got washed out twice. He missed a huge tackle that was converted into a 3rd down play. Eric Kendricks also missed the tackle on that same play. I thought he looked awful, but the Vikings didn't play any nickel because they didn't have any receivers today. So Gideon was in there a ton as far as I was concerned, and I would give him like a D. He was below average to me, in my opinion, but he didn't do anything to kill the team, so he doesn't fail.
But it doesn't even matter because the rest of the team is basically elite.
Yeah,
because Anthony Barr is covering for him pretty much.
Yes. Dude, I mean, Anthony Barr has just been – he's keeping everything in front of him this year, and that was the difference from last year. Drew and I talked about this all summer long, and we kept referencing that play with David Johnson last year, where David Johnson basically was in heads-up coverage against Anthony Barr and just basically juked him out of his shoes, and Barr was completely out of position. We haven't seen that at all this year, and we've faced guys like Tariq Cohen. You know, there's been a bunch of talent. Ty Montgomery, I mean, Aaron Jones as well. He's an efficient tackler. He's making plays like as a pass rusher, as a cover guy. Ball staying in front of Anthony Barr, period. And that's why he has been arguably a top 3-ish, I don't know, man. This whole defense has been really good. Top 3-ish performer on the Vikings defense. But, I mean, you can make a case for Everson, Harrison Smith, Neil Hunter, Linval Joseph. I mean, I don't know, man. They're gelling. They're finally gelling. And we're seeing the consistent performance that we hoped we were getting last season over the course of 7 games instead of just 5.
Do you guys get nervous when the defense is on the field? Because I feel like lately, it's almost like I prefer to have the defense on the field rather than having the offense on the field. One, because they're just so much fun to watch, but like I have no concerns about the defense, allowing anything. That I almost feel like sometimes they give us a better opportunity to score than the offense, and I prefer watching them over the offense.
The last time I was nervous for any defensive play was when Aaron Rodgers was on the field.
Sure.
And since then, I haven't once been nervous about a play. I mean, and the bend but don't break is like the worst that this team has been this year on defense. They'll allow a drive to the 25-yard line or something, but they'll bend, but then they'll halt, and they'll allow a field goal or something.
When Murray scored like midway through the 3rd quarter, in my head, the game was over because it was a
Yeah.
two-score game with the Vikings defense.
Yeah.
That was nail in the coffin in my head because this defense has been really, really good, and the Vikings have done a really good job closing out games. For what it's worth, Case Keenum played his best football down the stretch, and they were able to run out the clock for that. So, I mean, I don't know, man. This defense is really, really good. I don't want to say anything, over the top because last year when we did that, we were confronted with reality real quick. So let's just stick it with this is a very good defense that probably has 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 potential Pro Bowl candidates right now.
So let's talk about Trae Waynes. It's amazing to me that I still see all of these tweets hating Trae Waynes, even when he has, I thought, a good game outside of maybe the final play in the game where he allowed a touchdown.
No one was paying attention.
But I mean, what did you guys think about Trae Waynes today? BJ, you're the one that's you're like doing this weekly column where you're basically
Coverage chart.
Yeah, your coverage charts. So I mean, what are your thoughts on? I mean, are we at a point now where we need to lay off Trae Waynes a little bit?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I'm okay with getting on Trae Waynes for not making plays when he's in perfect position. I'm sure that's so frustrating to his coaches because he sets himself up so well in coverage and he doesn't turn his head around. That's the most frustrating thing in the world because basically he's doing 98% of the job and just not doing the final 2% to make the play. That's something he needs to improve on. And yes, he is a number 2 cornerback, and yes, it is expected that someone's going to get the yards racked up against them somewhere on the field. And he has improved over the last 3 games. I think this was probably his finest performance against Michael Campanero or whatever the hell his name is. But I mean, I think no Viking player is free from criticism, in my opinion. So Waynes continues to take the heat because he continues to make mistakes. And when you make a mistake consistently week after week after week, you build that reputation, and that's what's just going to happen. So every single time you allow a catch, people freak out. And I'm okay with that because he's not doing enough, like by such a small margin that if he just corrects a little thing or if he just kind of gets the timing down a little bit better, we wouldn't have these criticisms of Trae Waynes because you see him when he's at his best. He jumps routes, he makes plays with his head, and he turns his head around. He's got jets to catch up to players, and he's tackling better than ever. So,
I guess I'm not saying like we shouldn't be critical of the player's performance. I'm just talking about the sort of narrative that I was seeing things today like we need to bench Trae Waynes. He needs to get off the field. That's the sort of hate I'm talking about, and I still see. It feels like I still see it everywhere, and I'm just like, all things considered, I feel like Wayne's performance has been good. Like, what did he allow today outside of stuff on that final drive?
Pro Football Focus is going to give him like a 0 rating for that because of that touchdown.
I mean, this is for Waynes. I mean, this was cake. He wasn't playing against NFL receivers this week. I mean, yes, they're in the NFL, but he covered Griff Whalen today. Okay, this was not like a challenge for Waynes. We should expect this type of performance from him. So, in my opinion, he's doing a lot better than people give him credit for, but that's just Vikings fans being irrational. It's per standard, par for the course every single week. Tremaine Brock is not better than Trae Waynes. That's fact. But he's still the weakest link.
But he's the weakest link? But is he the second best corner on this team right now?
Yes, Terrence Newman has been the worst in my opinion.
So I guess
I think Mac's been better when healthy than Waynes in the slot role. He's been better than Waynes. Yeah.
I'm okay with that take too. But the fact that Waynes has drawn so many more targets than pretty much everyone. It's
because I think a lot of that's just because guys they're throwing the ball away from Rhodes, and he's going to be the guy that gets targeted. So he's going to allow a lot of yards. It's just if he doesn't allow the big play, that's basically what I'm looking for. He can allow a few 10 to 15 to 20 yard catches a game, but don't give up the big play. Don't give up the 45-yard completion. Right. Don't get a PI 50 yards downfield. If Waynes can stop with that, which he's been out of position on that stuff more than I'd like, but if he can avoid that, and I'm okay with him giving up a few catches because he's going to be targeted so many times.
If you average it out, like try averaging out. If Rhodes allows 25 yards per game, which honestly he probably allows less than that on average this year. Waynes allows, let's say, 55 per game, and the rest of the cornerbacks and the DBs allow 40. I mean, that's a hell of a game, but Waynes is still the weakest link, right? Yeah. So he's gonna take crap like inherently just because he's playing opposite Rhodes, but he also has to play better at the same time.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to do like a quick division update, right? So Green Bay lost today, so they're 4-3. That means the Vikings secured their spot as the sole number one on top the NFC North, and then the Bears won. So that I think one of you guys said that puts them at 3-4. So
I think so.
And what are the Lions at right now? Does anyone have the stand? I probably just pulled up the standings. So that probably would have been.
I think their lines are 3-3.
Because they had the bye, so they're probably going to be. They'll still be ahead of the Bears, right? Anyway, while Drew's looking at that, I guess is there any concern from you guys that the Vikings don't win the NFC North now, or do you think it's their?
Oh, there's
always.
It's wrapping up the division on October 22nd is probably not the best idea.
Any time the Vikings can possibly lose, I'm worried.
Listen,
Detroit's 3-3. Detroit's 3-3.
So they're third, right? And Chicago would be behind them.
The Bears have won the past 2 games with Mitch Trubisky completing 12 passes. That's not going to work against the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers is out, and I don't even know the dude's name. Brett Hundley looked like crap. You can't trust the Lions. I'm going to sit here and say that I think they're going to win the division easily now. I do. I'm not worried about it like I used to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, BJ and Drew, the sky can fall and we can lose all of our starters and, lose the next 8 games. But I just mean, like,
until
what are you putting your money on, Like, what, BJ?
I don't bet on the Vikings anymore. I'm
not what I meant.
Straight up, I'm not messing with this topic. Talk to someone else.
All right. We are going to talk to someone else. Austin's about to let this person onto the table. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
What's your name again?
Blake.
Blake, and you're from?
Burnsville.
Burnsville. So. I'm still working on my Minnesota geography, so
that's fine.
Not quite sure where that's.
We have that's 2 Minnesotans in here now.
There we go. Woo.
Best place.
Am I the only other one? What the hell?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's up, man? What are your thoughts on today's game? Takeaways, questions? What you got?
I wanted to comment on the Trae Waynes stuff. People are just going to be critical of him because he's not Xavier Rhodes. And Vikings fans around here think that he is the next coming of Deion Sanders, it feels like. So,
which one? Who? Xavier Rhodes or Trae Waynes?
Xavier Rhodes, my bad.
Yeah.
They think people just think he's so good that they expect the rest of the defense to play like him, especially the corners.
You know who he also isn't? Trae Waynes is also not Marcus Peters, which is another reason people will never leave Trae Waynes alone.
That's the primary narrative.
It's so annoying, man.
I've fallen victim to that. I brought up that comparison a bunch, but you can't really. I'm blaming myself for this, but
it's apples and oranges to some degree. So I understand, but at the same time, I mean, people still talk about Michael Thomas and Laquan Treadwell too. Anytime you miss a pick, you're gonna have the 2020 hindsight guys come out on Twitter like out of the woodwork, out of absolutely nowhere. It's just going to happen. Waynes hasn't performed like a first-round pick. He definitely hasn't performed like a top 15 pick, and he's the weakest link on the defense, on a very, very good defense, dude. If you're the weakest link on the Vikings defense, that's probably still a good thing.
Do you think Waynes is a cornerback 1 on other teams in the NFL?
No. What kind of question is that?
What do you mean? What kind of question is that? I mean, like you're saying he's the weakest link on an elite defense, which is still good, right? So if he goes to another team where they have an awful secondary, can you think of any teams in the NFL where Trae Waynes may be the best cornerback on the roster?
Green Bay. I think Green Bay is the.
I'm just asking the inverse of your question, BJ.
Yeah. No, I was laughing just because I was thinking about Trae Waynes playing cornerback 1. I wasn't laughing at your question. No, I was just imagining the amount of targets that he would get.
Kick Blake out
I mean, after injuries, he'd probably be cornerback 1 on Tampa Bay.
After their injuries, yeah. Same with Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean
Kevin King. Without Kevin King, I think Waynes is CB1 in Green Bay.
he's a top 64 cornerback in the NFL, in my opinion. Trae Waynes.
That's good enough.
Exactly, and that's the point here. Is that if you're a top 64 cornerback on an elite defense, we can kind of neutralize your ineffectiveness. Let's put it simply and kindly with regard to Waynes. The one thing I will say for him is the penalties are gone. We haven't seen the penalties from Waynes as of late. It was the 3 of them early on in the year that totaled about 90 yards for him, which is unacceptable. But basically, since then, he's been good to go. So
there were a couple plays today though where he would have been called had the ball been catchable. I felt like
Probably.
two to three.
You probably
I'm
know.
fine with that.
Yeah, but okay. What else? What else you got, man? Any other takes or questions or anything?
People are treating next week's game like an easy win. I feel like if we do that, then they're gonna come out of nowhere and beat us by a field goal, and I'm kind of worried about that.
Yeah,
I would be less worried about the Browns. I mean, were you worried about the Ravens at all?
Yes.
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about the Browns, but I feel like if we just discount them, like throw out the second string or something like that, they're gonna come and beat us. I don't know. It just feels like a Vikings thing to do, if you know what I mean.
It's a trap game, for sure.
Sure.
It's absolutely a trap game because it's a situation where only the Browns can benefit. Because even if the Vikings win next week, we beat the Browns, good for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a trap game. So inherently, if the Vikings don't come out and play good defense, play subpar, I mean, how bad does that look if even Deshaun Kaiser puts up 21 points to the Vikings defense? It's a trap game
If
at
it's
its
even
finest.
Kaiser. It could be Cody Kessler or who else. I mean, it
Kevin
could be
Hogan.
Colin Kaepernick
I mean,
at this point.
They played 2 of them today. Kessler came in.
Yeah.
Threw 2 picks. It was bad. It was really
I mean,
bad.
I see this game as an easy win, but I'm with you, man. I mean, if the Vikings go into it with that mentality, that's a fan's mentality. That's for us. That's for us to think.
That's a Vikings
the
fan
Vikings,
mentality.
if the Vikings think that way, that's a problem. They should never think that ever. They should be treating this like the last possible game that they may ever play every single week.
Who do we think
in
is
my
going to be
opinion.
starting at quarterback next week? Not
Not
for the
Kaiser.
Vikings. Not for the Vikings. Sorry.
Oh,
I'd say Kessler.
Um,
I think Kaiser's cooked
I
at
guess
this
the
point.
follow-up.
Let's
question,
all just
does
pick.
it
Let's all
matter?
just pick a different guy. Let's all just pick a different guy, and then we'll see who.
He may not even.
I'll
be
go
on the
with-
I'll
roster.
take Kaepernick.
I'll take Kaiser. I'll take Kaiser because I think he's got the most potential.
You missed the news today, BJ. He was out till 1 a.m. before the game.
Kaiser was
Yeah.
baller, dude. I mean, that's exactly like they went from Manziel. They just picked out the next
He might
party
have been
animal.
hanging out with Manziel.
He was going to be pissed, so I say Kessler. Cody Kessler.
Yeah, he was
I'll take-
definitely going to be mad
I think
about
the
that.
follow-up question is: does it matter which quarterback they face next
Probably
week?
not.
So how much does the London thing weigh into it? You think? I mean, does it just become more of a wild card, or is that narrative out the door?
I have a stat about that.
Go
The
ahead.
losing teams in the 3 London games this year, the losing teams have scored a combined 7 points in the 3 games. So
Can
That's
I
crazy.
just say that this Cleveland game is probably the least important game on the schedule?
yeah,
It's the
What makes you say that, BJ?
This is a bit of a thinker. You got to think about it a little bit. First
Let's
of all, it's an away game. Second of all, it's against an AFC team, so there's no tiebreakers involved here. So if the Vikings were to lose to Cleveland, that tiebreaker is like 9 spots down the chart. So every football game is obviously important, right? But relative to the rest of the games this year, this away game against Cleveland and the game that we lost against the Steelers on the road are probably the 2 least important games the Vikings will play all season long.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
Didn't have to think that
for what
hard.
it's worth.
I was ready.
I mean, it's. I mean, you also understand the tiebreaker system too. So,
Yeah.
like, if you don't understand the tiebreaker system, it's a bunch of like numbers thrown into an algorithm that basically if you're playing out of conference, it's not that important of a game, especially when it's on the road. So,
Was the last time the Vikings
saying.
in London, was that against the Steelers? Tang Yang wants to know in the comments. I think it was, right? We won that game?
yeah,
That sounds right.
won
We
it.
won that game? We won that game.
That was
There we
actually
go.
an exciting
Are we
game.
undefeated in London?
Yes.
Undefeated in London.
yeah.
There you go. Blake, before we get you out of here, you want like a game ball you want to award or something?
Latavius Murray.
Latavius
Yeah,
Murray.
shout
There
out.
we go. I like it.
The offense ran through him,
There
and
we
we
go.
needed that. So
All right,
Like
man.
that.
Well, I appreciate you stopping by again. Hopefully we see you next week, all right?
yeah, sure. Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Take it easy, man.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, cool. He exited himself because I'm still trying to figure out this new system we got here. All right, so before we wrap this thing up, I want to just hit up the next 3 or 4 games. Go over the schedule. We got the Browns in London, then we got the bye week at Redskins, the Rams at home, and then a slew of away games coming after that. So I think that's going to be when the Vikings face their real test, is once they start going on the road towards the end of the season. Let's wrap this thing up by going around getting your guys' game ball, and then we'll get everyone out of here so we can enjoy the rest of our Sunday. Let's go, Austin. You didn't even watch the game, so
Yeah.
game ball doesn't matter.
I saw a graphic that he had a bunch of run stops. So Linval Joseph.
I was thinking Linval too, man. And I said on Twitter, he's still, we know how good he is, and we still talk about him so little, and he's just so disruptive in the middle.
Well,
go ahead.
You knew that the Ravens were going to come out and try to run the ball, and
had to run the ball basically.
They had to, and Linval had to have a good game to stop that, and he did. So Linval gets my ball.
Drew,
probably going to take BJ's here, but Anthony Barr is my game ball. I mean, he was the best player on the field, and I don't think it's very close. So Anthony Barr is mine. Definitely, he's better than 2015 Barr, and I think today was kind of possibly his best career football game. So I'm going to go with Anthony Barr.
BJ.
Yeah, I mean, other than that touchdown return game, the overtime victory against Tampa Bay, might be the best game of Barr's career. So that was the guy I was going to choose for the sake of, not repeating ourselves. I'll go with Kai Forbath because I think that he scored most of the points today. Every time the Vikings got him in position, with the exception of that extra point, it's kind of just that's an expectation, right? He's going to miss an extra point. But he came to play on the 50-plus yarders. He was matching Justin Tucker shot for shot, and in my opinion, he's the best kicker in the world. So Kai Forbath gets my game ball. I'm fine with that.
What is the deal with the extra points? I can't wrap my head around it.
It's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. Yeah.
I mean, so many people on Twitter were like, "Where's everybody? Where's everybody on Team Fire Forbath?" And I was just thinking to myself, well, he hasn't had to kick an extra point yet, so let's.
It's just like why does the number 1 golfer in the world miss a 5-foot putt? Like, Drew, you can appreciate that. Everybody misses the putts that they should make. It happens. It's why do
the scariest putt in golf is the 3-foot par putt.
Yes. Why do NBA players miss free throws? Right? It happens.
So are you guys fine with? Let's say I don't know. I guess my question is: are you fine with Forbath missing an extra point a game as long as he hits all his other field goals?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like I'm fine with Emerson Griffin jumping off sides.
Which he cashed in today, too. He waited till the end of the game. Had to get that offsides call.
Give or take. I mean, we've talked about this with a lot of different players. There's positive elements and there's negative elements to every player's game. Kai Forbath is no different. And I mean, it's pretty absurd that his issue as a kicker is that he can't hit extra points, especially when he's nailing down back-to-back 50-yarders right before it. But you take the good with the bad, and right now it's more good than bad, in my opinion.
Yep. So people are talking about Griffin in the chat. He also had his he got his sack this game, so he's had 7 consecutive games with the sack.
Who got credited with that sack when Joe Flacco literally just decided to fall down on the ground?
That was, I think, Tom Johnson, I believe.
Was it Tom Johnson? Okay, I thought Everson got the sack.
I think Hunter had the one at the beginning, and then Tom Johnson had that one, and then Griffin had 2. I believe that was.
Well, I think Griffin got credited with the fumble, right, or something, and that counted as a sack.
That's a sack.
Yeah. So Griffin 9 sacks on the year through 7 games, having a great season so far.
Defensive Player of the Year candidate right now.
Yeah, for sure.
He and there's a couple on the Vikings defense really that are candidates. I mean, strong candidates for that. Yeah.
All right, Rhodes.
Yeah, Rhodes. Shoot, forgot about Rhodes.
This is a really good defense.
Really good.
There is an elite playmaker or 2 at every level.
You know who else is elite? The gentleman out there that got us to 500 subscribers. I'm not sure who that person is, but we appreciate it because you got us to 500 during the show. Everyone else that isn't subscribed, please subscribe. Click the little bell icon and you get that little nifty update to your phone as soon as we go live, as soon as About the Labor goes live. And you get updates whenever we put up videos, so it's pretty cool. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Like, subscribe, share, and I appreciate you 3 for hanging out for a little bit. Have a good rest of your day. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
You guys.
Late.
All right, guys.